Welcome into the Hard Count. It is Thursday, May 8th, 2025. Last one on the face of the planet. What a day to be alive, man. We're ranking the top quarterback rooms in the SEC, a power rankings, if you will, a top five. But before we get to that, who are the current faces of college football? A better question to ask, and the question I ask y'all on my socials at JD PicKell, Twitter and Instagram. Who's going to be the face of the 2025 college football season? Full disclaimer, I don't think there's always a face to every single season, but if we're calling our shot for this upcoming year, we got to take for you. Make sure you're subscribed. It's college football. It's nothing but college football year-round. Glad to have y'all a part of this. Y'all make this show what it is. We appreciate you in advance for doing that, for being subscribed. But like I just said, let's start here. Who is going to be the face of the 2025 college football season? I want to make this distinction at the top, though. The face of the sport and the face of a respective season, to me, usually different things. Like, I think the face of the sport, to me, you have to be able to write a book about that person and have several different college football seasons as different chapters. Like, to me right now, the face of the sport is Kirby Smart. Because when you talk about college football and what he is to college football, there's a lot of different things to say. Last year's SEC championship, the 2 national championships he has to his name, all that to me adds up to him being currently the face of the sport. Kind of got the torch passed in some ways from Nick Saban. That's the current status right now to me. You speak to the face of the sport, I think a lot of times it is coach over player. Because to me, like to be the face of the sport, it's got to be like an August to August runway when it comes to how we talk about you. You can have a great year, but like the Joe Burrow year, for example, for LSU, he was awesome. And for that season, he was the face of the sport. But I'm not talking about 2018 being the Joe Burrow LSU experience as much. I'm not talking about 2020 because Joe Burrow was off in the NFL. So those things to me are different. Now, I will say, Tim Tebow was the face of the sport for a while. I think Johnny Manziel was the face of the sport for that 2-year run. I think you can make a case for Baker Mayfield being the face of the sport in a very, very condensed part of his career. I do think, though, speaking to the face of the sport, if Ryan Day and Ohio State win a national championship in 2025, like they're favored to do right now in Vegas, that conversation becomes a lot more interesting. Because at that point, you say, well, Ryan Day went back-to-back in national championships. Well, hey, the sport of college football starting to shift a little bit more north with the Big Ten having, at that point now, 3 national championships in the last 3 years. At that point, I think you can at least open up the discussion of, is Ryan Day becoming the face of the sport? Another conversation for another time. But when it comes to the face of a college football season, to me, what stands the test of time in this discussion is, do we refer to your season as the blank year? The Cam Newton year, the Reggie Bush year at USC, the Joe Burrow year at LSU, the Tim Tebow year. And Tim Tebow, I think, was also a face of the sport candidate. But my criteria for this, in addition to that, is, did we see you coming a little bit? Like, I don't think you can be the face of a season if we get on the hype train in the month of October. Not saying you can't still have a great year, but to me, that I have to be able to get on the hype train during media days, have the hype train during the preview magazine part of the calendar year in college football, and then ride that thing all the way out up until January, December. That's the other part of this. I think you got to have some postseason success to be the face of a season. Like, I need you to dictate my plans. Christmas, New Year's Day, I need to say, no, you know what? I got to watch so-and-so playing. I got to watch what Texas is doing. I got to watch what Ohio State is doing. I got to watch what Georgia is doing because of this specific player. I think when you have the face of a season kind of player, a lot of the time, you're sort of forced to watch that guy, right? Like, no matter what you thought about Johnny Manziel when he was at A&M for that Heisman run, you were forced to watch him. No matter what you thought about Joe Burrow, you were forced to sit down and watch that dude. Cam Newton, same thing. And when you sat down and watched them, they delivered in a massive way. So even if you were hate watching, you were watching and saying, well, number 2 for Auburn's playing. I got to watch this right now. This is going to be something a little bit different. I will secede this point, though. The cover magazine part of this is not a non-negotiable. It is a helpful indicator. Like, we didn't have Cam Newton on our radar. We didn't have Joe Burrow on our radar quite as much as we did when the season got rolling. But I got to know about you earlier on in the year as opposed to later in the year is my whole point there. So in 2025, I spoke to every season not having a face. 2025 will not be one of those years. 2025 will have a face of the college football season. And I think it's going to be Arch Manning because I think Texas is going to be really, really good. I think there's the hunger of what Texas has right now internally of wanting to get over the hump and compete for a national championship, play for a national championship. Think about all the hype around Arch Manning, and we have spoken against it on this show because I think a lot of it is, quite frankly, not fair to him. I don't think it's really fair to the fact that he hasn't even been given the keys officially yet at Texas in terms of him playing game one for Texas just yet. He'll be the starter, obviously. You heard him saying. He hasn't even entered into his first full year as the guy, and people are already saying he's the number one pick in next year's draft. We've already talked about that, but my point being, all the almost like mystique around Arch, all the story arc around Arch Manning, the lore, all that. Hey, last name is Manning, doesn't really do social media. There's some mystery there, doesn't do the camps, doesn't do all this and that. And then he eventually gets to Texas, and if they compete for a national championship, if the hype meets delivery, Arch Manning will be unavoidable. He already is unavoidable to a little bit. You think you're being force-fed Arch Manning content right now? Brother, you have not seen the half of it. You will not be able to walk by a television screen that has ESPN or Fox on it and not see a commercial or a segment during First Take or any given show will be somehow working in Arch Manning into their content. I promise you. Now, if that happens, we will do our very best to be responsible and measured in how we talk about Arch Manning. But just so we're all aligned here, I think Texas is going to be really good, and I think Arch Manning having success in 2025, even if he doesn't have any, ridiculous numbers, if he plays well and Texas is good, both things that I think will happen, Arch Manning will be the face of college football here in 2025. Now, if it's not Arch Manning, there's a lot of candidates. Ohio State, between Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, speaking to the lore, we've talked about both those guys being top 5 picks really since last season. Caleb Downs is going to be the best defensive player in college football. Jeremiah Smith has a chance to be the best wide receiver to ever play football, college or pro, period. So there's some of that involved. And then all the quarterbacks, too, that have a chance to break through. I don't see us sitting here at the end of the college football year and say, man, it just felt a little bit ambiguous. I don't know who last year's face was. Like, there's so many guys that are on the doorstep, from a Garrett Nussmeier to a DJ Lagway to a Lenore Sellers to a Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller. There's so many names to where if one of those teams competes for a national championship, if one of those guys plays at a Heisman caliber level this season, at that point you say, yeah, that guy's probably the face of the sport. So I think it's Arch, but again, to put it simply here, I do not see a world where we don't have a face of the 2025 college football season. And to be real now, I think that's fun for the sport. Like, good for the sport, bad for the sport, say what you want, but I think that's fun for the sport in a lot of ways because you can then have a conversation with your cousins who don't even watch college football at Christmas and say, hey, how about Arch, huh? Hey, how about what Arch Manning's doing right now in college football? And they'll know what you're talking about because, again, they will have it just delivered to them on a silver platter. And at some point in time, will have had their interest piqued, whether it's against their will or not, sat down, watched Arch Manning or watched whoever ended up being the face, and they will be able to get on the hype train. So that's our take on this whole thing. Now, to speak about takes, I put out the call to action on my Twitter page at JD PicKell, and I want to get your take on our top 25 that we put out on our Tuesday show. Again, this is a post-spring top 25. We will have another top 25 for you before the season starts. We'll adjust it a little bit based on the fall camp intel that we have. And we asked y'all to give us your take on the top 25. Who's too high? Who's too low? And y'all responded in elite fashion. If you haven't yet called, 629-888-3931. Leave us a voicemail. We got one of y'all with some strong opinions on where Notre Dame is ranked in our top 25 after spring ball. Go ahead and take a listen.
ND rated 6? Are you kidding me? Haters gotta hate. Seriously? Come on. There's no way you could keep a straight face and put ND at 6. They're going to be better. They're stronger. We actually are going to have a quarterback in CJ Carr that can throw the ball. Best running back room in the country. Top 5 offensive line in the country. Defense will only be stronger. You're crazy. But you always pick against us. That's okay. Go Irish.
All right, I want to address the last part that he just mentioned. I do not always pick against Notre Dame. First of all, I picked against Notre Dame twice this year, and I believe 3 times. One time I was incorrect one time I was correct against Ohio State, but Louisville game, Georgia game, hand up, thought they would lose. They did not lose, so that's out of the way. But preseason, I had Notre Dame in the college football playoff, just so we're all on the same page here. But, let's move forward. So I have Notre Dame at number 6 in our top 25. Right now, this is not a prediction as to where they'll finish. Even if it was a prediction to where they'll finish, they would still be in the playoff. We're going to do our college football playoff predictions when we get closer to the year, but I will have Notre Dame in that top 12, just so we're all in the know here. But with where we are right now in this top 25, it's a lot about what do I know about you? What do I know about your football team? And the big question mark for Notre Dame is at quarterback. We think it can be Kenny Minchey or C.J. Carr. We think it's C.J. Carr. There are some people out there that will stand on the table and say it's Kenny Minchey's job. I don't know what to believe, but all the teams in front of Notre Dame, all 5 of them, either 1, made the college football playoff, or 2, have a top 10 recruiting class that they've stacked, a couple top 10 recruiting classes, or they're Clemson, number 5, and they have the number 1 returning production in college football. It's like I know more about those teams. I'm not saying Notre Dame is not going to be great this year. I'm actually saying the exact opposite. But a big question mark is, what do you have at quarterback for me? I trust the defensive talent. I trust the traits. But again, 4 of those teams in front of them have multiple top 10 classes: Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon. The other one that doesn't have multiple top 10 classes is the number 1 returning production in college football in Clemson. So I want to see that the quarterback play at Notre Dame is going to be enough to get back to where you were a season ago. Because I love Riley Leonard. I think he was good last year, but he's not playing next year. It's C.J. Carr or it's Kenny Minchey. And I think when you look at the future for Notre Dame, a lot of your confidence lies in the defensive side. That's not changing. But if you want to get over the hump and be a team that plays a national championship again, you probably got to have a difference maker at quarterback. What if we tried out there and C.J. Carr is a B- kind of guy? It surprised me. It's probably surprised you a little bit, but that's the thing. We don't know for sure. We don't know exactly what we're getting from him. So with that being said, Notre Dame at 6 feels pretty fair to me. I am very excited about Notre Dame. I want to make that very clear. I'm very excited about the trajectory. I'm very excited about the offense. But this is not a prediction. If this is a prediction, who knows where we put Notre Dame? This is a where are they currently? And where they are currently is really good defense. I love their skill players. Optimistic about quarterback, but I don't know for sure. Neither do you. Nobody's hating on Notre Dame. Can we just ask questions? Can we warm up a little bit before we just totally go for the slam dunk? That's kind of how I feel about this thing when we talk about Notre Dame. So they're going to be in my playoff. The margins are small. Number 6. I mean, Notre Dame, that feels like a pretty fair spot to have them. As we sit here right now, not knowing exactly who the quarterback is, even if we knew who the quarterback is, we don't know what we're getting from them. So appreciate you calling, but that's our take on that. We're not anti-Notre Dame by any stretch, and I think the tape would indicate as much if you were to go back and watch this show. All right, got another take here from y'all talking about Alabama and where they are in our top 25.
Hey, JD PicKell. This is Casey from Madison, Alabama, and I'm looking at these spring ratings, and I am not a happy camper. JD, I'm really upset because I'm looking at all these teams that are put in front of the Crimson Tide, and I'm just unhappy. Kalen DeBoer, the guy that coached for the national championship 2 years ago, the guy that came in for the GOAT, and actually, while people think he was a down year, managed to have a 9-win season, beating the eventual SEC champions. I have faith that guy is better than he's definitely better than the A&M coach and the South Carolina coach. I have faith in Alabama. I think that Ty Simpson's going to ball. I think Ryan Williams and Jeremy Renard are going to go crazy this year. I think that the addition of Isaiah Horton is going to be splendid. It's this Florida and Auburn thing. Walk me through it because I feel like this is almost lose your credential worthy. Mr. JD, help me out here.
All right, well, we'll address the Florida-Auburn part of this a little bit later, but let's start with the major gripe. Alabama at number 11. It feels weird seeing that script day outside the top 10, but you look at this top 10, y'all, I feel good about every single team ahead of them at quarterback or they made the college football playoff. Like A&M, I like Marcel Reed. At least I know who he is. Same deal at number 9 and number 8. Sellers and Nussmeier, yeah, I'll take that to the bank. Georgia, Notre Dame, Oregon, Clemson, Penn State, Ohio State, Texas, all college football playoff teams. Something that Alabama was not a season ago. Now you sit here and say, well, JD, what was the problem in Alabama last year? Why didn't they make the college football playoff? Glad you asked. They didn't have a quarterback. Had Jalen Milroe. He wasn't good enough last year to run the system. I've said so many times, no offense to Jalen Milroe. No, actually, offense to Jalen Milroe. They were not good enough last year at quarterback. Period. Mic drop. The end. Alabama fans know that. And it wasn't like I wasn't high on the guy going into the year. I thought it'd be awesome. It wasn't the way that it worked out. And so if that was the problem last year, and you're entering into a new year with a question mark at quarterback, can you guarantee me that's fixed? I think that Ty Simpson's going to be good. I think that if it's not him, Keelan Russell could be good or Austin Mack could be good. But that's the point, right? We don't know just yet. And so this is not a prediction. This is where we are in spring. And as of right now, there is no assurances. There is no guarantees that problem is fixed. There's none. I feel, again, going back to that top 25, I feel better about all the teams in front of them at quarterback, or I feel better about their roster in relation to them being a college football playoff team. So I will say this. Alabama in 2025, they will be quarterback driven. If you needed more proof of that, go back and watch the 2024 season. Go back and watch what Washington was with Ryan Grubb as the OC there with Kalen DeBoer. They reunited, and it feels so good. If I see Ty Simpson slinging it in September, he walks out there against Florida State, first drive, and he's just out there playing darts, give me a Hayes Fawcett graphic. I'm committing to Alabama. I'll be all in on the Tide. That'll be all I need to see. But if that is the major hinge point, that's the major variable, I don't know that we have the Mentos to the Coke just yet. I think you could. But if you're asking me to project in the future, okay, we'll talk about that. But a current standing in spring, I don't see it. I don't see it just yet. And that's not anybody's fault. We didn't get spring game broadcast, did our best to keep our ear to the ground on the intel. Alabama hasn't even a quarterback yet. I think it's going to be Ty Simpson at this point. There's no guarantees that's the case either. So to speak to Florida and Auburn, Florida, I know who their quarterback is. I know he's really good. Top 20 in returning production, a team that finished the year with 2 top 25 wins. I like the trajectory. Right now, I feel like I know more about Florida at the most important position with the way they finished last year, okay? There were times last year for Alabama where the way they finished was, abysmal. Losses to Oklahoma, losses to Michigan. I think Alabama is going to be good, but I don't have them higher because of just what I said, the question marks around them. Auburn, same deal. They're a little bit more tricky to get a pulse for because you have a new quarterback in Jackson Arnold. Now, let's make sure this is clear. Alabama is still ahead of Florida, is still ahead of Auburn. I've been pretty vocal the entire time. I'm not out on Alabama. I'm just not into the point where I know they're going to be a top 10 team. So if we hear good things about Ty Simpson, we see good things about Ty Simpson early on, I think they're going to have a chance to be awesome. I've said many a time, Kalen DeBoer, he knows quarterbacks. The fact that none of these individuals have transferred out tells me, 1, it's still a battle, and 2, he feels good about all those guys in that room. Keelan Russell's the future, but Austin Mack, he's still there. Ty Simpson, he's still there. And I think the fact that they're there is, in some way, shape, or form, a bit of a peek into the room that Kalen DeBoer must have communicated something to, hey, keep going. We're going to see how this thing goes in the fall. Keep battling. Is some of that he's trying to keep his roster intact? I'm sure it's part of it. I don't think that's inappropriate to assume that he wants to keep as few of those quarterbacks in the transfer portal as possible. But I also think the fact that he recruited Austin Mack twice, both to Washington and to Alabama, I don't think that's nothing. Ty Simpson, the fact that he's still there after not being the guy multiple times under Nick Saban, I think that says something about how good Kalen DeBoer feels about him. Keelan Russell, what he was as a prospect speaks for itself. If Alabama has a dude at quarterback, they're a national title competitor. Again, we have a blank here. We just don't have any way of filling in. So for me right now, they're outside the top 10. It's not knocking Bama. It's just how I feel about them at this point in the spring. But if we were projecting, maybe Bama's higher. We'll give you our prediction here as we get closer into the fall. But all that to say, we're not out on Bama. We're just asking proper questions, I think, before the season starts. And I can't wait to see what they are. Now, whenever we started this voicemail segment, this voicemail box from y'all, the next call we're about to get from a one Arizona State fan is exactly the kind of voicemail that I hope we would get before the year started. Go ahead and take a listen.
JD, Colin from Phoenix, Arizona. Colin, hey, I got one issue with the top 25 rankings and one issue only. I need you to watch out for the Sun Devils of Arizona State. The Sun Devils in Tempe, Arizona are destined for a big season led by Kenny Dillingham and Sam Levitt. These boys are destined to make a run. Last year wasn't a fluke. A lot of people doubted then. Kenny had the boys ready to go. We're going to have a healthy Jordan Tyson. I know a lot of people are saying, running back is going to be a concern. Cam Scadaboo's gone. We're going to retool the whole offense. But really, we don't even need to because we got the boys back. The boys are going to be ready to go. Kenny Dilly and company will have the Sun Devils back in the college football playoff. They're going to be hoisting the national championship trophy at season's end. Look out for the Devils, baby.
Fear the fourth, baby. Woo!
Okay, that'd be sick. If Arizona State won the national championship, that would be very, very cool. And then you're talking about, is Sam Leavitt the face of the sport this year? Or is he the face of the 2025 season? Kenny Dillingham, is he the face of the 2025 season? All I'll say is, one, from every top 25 that I've seen post-spring, I believe we have Arizona State higher than anybody else. I'll also say, I think back in like February, we called our shot and said Arizona State's winning the Big 12. So take of that as you will. I'm here for it, brother. I'm all the way here for it. Arizona State, number 2 in returning production. The Big 12 is wide the heck open. I think if you're in Tempe, you feel like you have one of, if not the best quarterback in college football in Sam Leavitt. Now, is that the reality? Doesn't matter. It's your perception of things, so I'm here for it. I love so much what they're building out there. Talk about activating the Valley. Talk about the trajectory out there in Tempe. There is so much within the state of Arizona at a high school level to where if you put a fence around the state of Arizona, we talk about putting a fence around South Florida, Southern California, put a fence around the state of Arizona, you have what you need to win the Big 12 every single year. And then you start dipping into Texas, dipping into California a little bit more. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm here for all the Arizona State hype because they've earned it at this point. I love my man calling in about Kenny Dilly, trying to get him on the show. I have no notes except for we have Arizona State higher than anybody else I've seen. We're believing the hype. And, losing Cam Scatterby is a big deal. But what you mentioned about Jordan Tyson, he wasn't even healthy for the playoff run last year. If he plays against Texas, maybe they beat Texas. I digress. But Arizona State, we're in on the Sun Devils. We're in on what Coach Dillingham's doing. And if they win the national championship, that'd surprise us. But would not surprise me in the slightest. We will pick them to win the Big 12, and we feel pretty good about doing so. So, again, appreciate y'all dialing in, 629-888-3931. Get at us with your takes, your objections, your concerns, heck, even your agreements if you want for our top 25 post-spring. We'll keep unpacking that as we go forward as y'all want to talk about it via voicemail. But we did this on some previous years right around this time, and y'all responded really well to it, so we're going to go back to the well here. We're going to go through the top quarterback rooms for each of the Power 4 conferences. We're going to start in the SEC. Now, to be clear, this is not a prediction to what these quarterbacks are going to eventually be. My criteria here, the power rankings of this top 5, is how cooked are you if your starting quarterback were to go down? Honorable mention. South Carolina's in the mix here. Lenore Sellers, I've told y'all, I think he could be the best player in college football this year. I feel strongly about that. Aaron Noland was a top 5 player at his position coming out of high school. I need to see more from Aaron Noland before I put him in the top 5, but South Carolina gets a little bit of props there. At number 5, I got Oklahoma. Now, what I just said about Lenore Sellers could also be true for John Mateer. He could be the best player in college football. I feel that strongly about him. What he brings to the table, mobility, confidence, toughness, continuity with his offensive coordinator with Ben Arbuckle and John Kuzieski as his quarterback coach. Like, there's a lot there to be excited about. I think that he totally changes the ceiling for what Oklahoma could be. But it's not just a quarterback ranking. It's a room ranking. Michael Hawkins Jr. last year, and all the good people in Norman just kind of rolled their eyes a little bit because you saw what you saw last year. Y'all, I don't think it was quite as bad as what you got to see. I think that he was put in a position where he had to play entirely too early. I don't think that was on his bingo card. I don't think it was on the staff's bingo card. But y'all, you talk to people close to the program in Norman, people in that building, they feel good about Michael Hawkins Jr. They feel good about what he can be. So this upcoming season, I mean, God forbid something happen to John Mateer, but if number 10 is not able to go, I think Michael Hawkins Jr. with a full spring in the system behind Ben Arbuckle, a full, you would hope, fully healthy wide receiving core, a better offensive line, you might be able to see some things from Michael Hawkins Jr. Let's make sure we note this. Last year, he had to run for his life every single snap, or just about. And he did his best doing that. That was a big reason why he was your guy against Tennessee and put his absolute heart on the line for you. Michael Hawkins Jr., don't sell your stock. I think that room's top 5 in the SEC, in my opinion. Now, Texas A&M, to me, is at number 4. If you watch this show, you know we're big fans of Marcel Reed. Massive part of that. I cannot get out of my mind's eye watching the game against Florida in the Swamp. And we really, as college football fans, didn't know who was going to be the starter for A&M in that game until like a few minutes before kick. Connor Wegman, a little bit dinged up, not sure what's going to happen in the rain. Marcel Reed, I believe he got told pretty early on, too, that he was going to start. Like, it was a pretty close to kick thing for him as well. And if it wasn't, I mean, they kept it under wraps. The bottom line is he walked into the Swamp, and his pulse was just, I mean, they probably had to check it a few times to make sure that he was actually alive. Like, the dude has got some psychopath to him. Looked like he was out there playing 7-on-7 against Florida. Now, the Florida team he played versus the Florida team they eventually became, two different things. But the point I'm trying to make here is I think with the offense being tailored to him this year for a full spring, for a full offseason, for it now being his team, he's going to cook this year. I love what he brings mobility-wise. I love what they have done around him, going out and getting Kevin Concepcion. I think Marshall Reed's in for a big year. In addition to that, behind him you have a quarterback who I think is criminally underrated, is Jacob Zeno. Started his career at Baylor, transferred to UAB, did some good things at UAB. Now he's at Texas A&M. He is very steady hands if something were to happen to where Marshall Reed is not able to go. You could put him in the game and he wouldn't mess it up. At that point, give it to Le'Veon Moss. Make sure you give him some access throws. Jacob Zeno was an Elite 11 guy. Like, he's got some real skill to him. So Jacob Zeno from UAB by way of Baylor, now at A&M, him in that room with Marshall Reed, to me, makes it top 5 in the SEC. So this top 3 now is where it gets a little bit more intriguing. Really the 2 and 3 spot is where we had some disagreement here in the office before we got rolling here. I got Auburn at number 3. Now, you have 2 5-stars between Jackson Arnold and Deuce Knight. You also, just the cherry on top there, have a quarterback who started games in the Power 4, Ashton Daniels, transferring over from Stanford. My big thing is I'm not sure that you have a true hit in that room. It might be Jackson Arnold. It could be Deuce Knight. It could be Ashton Daniels. But what I saw from Jackson Arnold a year ago, while I still believe in him, there's a lot there that I'm wondering about. Like, I think in 9 fumbles last year at Oklahoma, got benched at different points, not all the time because of him. I think it was a lot of what the situation asked for. I'm just not 100% sold on the top end of that room. But if you're talking about a situation where, how cooked are you if your starter goes down, I do think you have some answers. I'm just not so sure there's the top-end talent in there to totally make me feel confident in them being a top 2 room. So I like Auburn. I want to see more from Jackson Arnold, but top 3 room in the SEC, I don't think we're speaking too unfairly to what the Tigers have there. Y'all watch the show, I'm high on Deuce Knight. I think he's going to be special. I'm not even sure that Deuce Knight might not start some games for Auburn this year, but I digress. More on that in a little bit. At number 2, I got Alabama. Now, Auburn fans, you're frustrated by this. I hear you. Same deal, though, to what you have in your room. You have 2 5-stars in Keelan Russell and Ty Simpson, and then you also have Austin Mack. My whole reason for putting Alabama at 2 in the SEC versus Auburn at 3, it's a Kalen DeBoer trust thing. Like Kalen DeBoer, looking at his resume with Jake Haener, Michael Penix Jr., what he's done at the collegiate level, he has recruited 2 of these quarterbacks in this room, from Austin Mack to Keelan Russell. And the third quarterback might be the guy that starts for them, and Ty Simpson. So with that being said, I think Alabama at 2, it's very much so a Coke Pepsi taste test. If you like Deuce Knight and Jackson Arnold and Ashton Daniels more, there's no fault there, but I have Alabama at 2 and feel pretty good about that. Now at 1-1, man, we got LSU. This is the most stable quarterback room in the SEC. Garrett Nussmeier is the most known commodity at quarterback in the country. Threw for over 4,000 yards last year without a run game. Imagine if he has a run game this year. Behind him, you got Michael Van Buren. Michael Van Buren was a guy that we were talking about after the season ended as a guy who's like, hey, I'd be excited about Mississippi State next year because of what he brings to the table. It's a dude who was recruited to Oregon from Dan Lanning. Like, if you are a quarterback that Will Stein wants on his football team, you can play some ball. If Jeff Levy wants you on his football team, you can play some ball at Mississippi State. Now he's going to be at LSU to sit for a year. But you watch him last year, he's getting after Georgia. Like, this is a guy that legitimately has, I think, a ton of potential, and the future of Baton Rouge is in a really good place because of what he brings. So both the present and the future in a great spot right now in Baton Rouge. But you're talking about quarterback rooms, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that LSU right now is the best in the SEC. So to recap it here, a little bit honorable mention for South Carolina. But I got Oklahoma at 5, Texas A&M at 4, Auburn at 3. All right, if you have them at 2, I don't fault you, but I have Auburn at 3, Alabama at 2. It's a Kalen DeBoer thing. And at number 1, I got the LSU Tigers with the best quarterback room in the SEC. So get at me with your takes there. Looking forward to hearing from y'all. I'm sure we will all be in agreement. Now, speaking of LSU, massive game week 1, dude. Massive game. We've done a couple of these previews, little never too early action because we're rounding the corner into media days. You can see it on the horizon. You're getting your plans ready for the fall. Week 1 is loaded. Clemson LSU, up there with Texas, Ohio State, depending on who you root for. I mean, it could be the game of week 1. Let's break this one down together, though. Take a quick peek at this one. Clemson is a 2.5-point favorite right now at the crib. We'll give you our prediction for this game when it gets closer. But the stakes in this one, there's a lot of, hey, we're the real fill in the blank on the line for both fan bases. LSU wins, hey, we're the real Death Valley. We're the real Tigers. Same thing can be said if you're Clemson. The other obvious part of this, too, is there's the non-college football, or the non-conference, college football playoff bargaining chip. If LSU has 9 wins and Clemson beats them heading into Selection Sunday and Clemson's not a conference champion, that LSU win is going to look pretty good. Same could be said for LSU if the roles are reversed there. Now, I think that the vibes of both fan bases, there's going to be a very unhappy side of this thing, whoever loses, and whoever wins is going to think they're a national championship kind of caliber team. And I'm not saying either side of that is wrong, but if you lose the opener again, if you're LSU, Brian Kelly will not just slam the table. He will full on potentially light the table on fire, Bills Mafia off the top of a pickup truck, like flying elbow down on that thing and crack it in half at the press conference. The fan base may riot in Baton Rouge. All right, just so we're all, it will not be good vibes in Baton Rouge if they lose the opener yet again. In a year now where you think you have a roster ready-made to go compete for a national championship, I already told you during this show, I think you have the most proven commodity in college football at quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier. There will be a lot of gnashing of teeth if things do not go well for LSU in this game. On the other side, too, for Clemson, this is a chance to legitimize who you are, man. Like, you know those diamond testers that you see people use on social media? They put them up to a chain and you check it and it tells you if it's real or not. This is that game for Clemson. Like, it's full Lupe Fiasco mode, man. If you are who you say you are, a superstar, have no fear. Cameras here, right? Cameras will be on this one for week 1 in college football. This will be, like I told you, one of the premier ones to watch. And I think for Clemson, speaking of the vibes for them, if they win, again, I told you, I think you're a national championship team internally. I don't think you're wrong for that. Same can be said for LSU. But if you lose, if you drop this one, people are going to start to murmur. All right, word to Will Ferrell and the other guys. People are going to start to murmur. People are going to start saying, man, is Clemson actually all that this year? Like, Brian Kelly can't win a week 1 game, and he just got one on the road at Death Valley. Like, that's so huge for Clemson because you need the court of public opinion on your side when it comes to Selection Sunday, especially in the ACC. Like, if you don't win your conference, ask Miami how that went, going 10-2. And then not having a win that they could put in their back pocket and show the committee and say, hey, this is why you should put us in. Like, if I'm Clemson, this is one that I think you have to have without probably getting your strength of schedule bumped from the ACC. This is massive. In a lot of ways, this is massive for their postseason accolades. This could determine what Clemson's doing in December/January. Now, in terms of this game, man, this is going to be a great test for both quarterbacks. Both of these dudes, in Cade Klubnik and Garrett Nussmeier, could have gone pro this year. I guarantee you, people in both of their ears saying, hey, this class isn't that good. You might be able to be QB1 in this class if you play your cards right. Both came back to take their team to the college football playoff and do more than that. And if you're going to be a playoff team, you win games like this because of your quarterback. Like, Garrett Nussmeier elevates his team in the spot because he came back, had another year to get right with his offensive coordinator, Joe Sloan. This is the spot you'd point to and say, okay, glad he came back. If you're Garrett Nussmeier, you finish after a big win and say, yep, I came back from moments like that. Same deal with Cade Klubnik. Another year in Garrett Riley's system. Weapons have another year to mature, and TJ Moore and Bryant Wesco. Okay, I came back to prove that I could ball in stages like this and make sure everybody in the college football world knows, like, we're like that this year because of Cade Klubnik. Now, it's funny because I think a big storyline within this game to watch when it comes to matchups, it's going to be a battle of, can Clemson be explosive and can LSU keep a lid on the explosive plays? Because last year LSU was 90th when it came to yards per pass allowed. That was a problem. There's a reason we're talking about DJ Pickett maybe starting as a true freshman for them. They need help in the secondary. And for Clemson, that's been what's held them back. When we talk about Clemson of old, it's, wow, those teams that had explosive playmakers with a great quarterback to make it all go. I think you got a good enough, maybe great quarterback in Cade Klubnik. I'm a believer of his. But now with TJ Moore, Wesco, Williams, all those guys, you're starting to say, okay, hey, we might have that ingredient to where we can actually have some field stretchers here. We can actually maybe go score for score with you and feel pretty good about getting ourselves into that situation. So if LSU wins that matchup and you have a situation where Cade Klubnik has to match scores. You put the pressure on them. Okay, there's a situation where I think Garrett Nussmeier probably likes his chances, as does the rest of that receiving core at LSU, as does Joe Sloan. But if Clemson wins that matchup, and on the flip side, you put pressure on Garrett Nussmeier to have to go score for score with you and all those new pieces. One, we've seen Garrett Nussmeier, as good as he is, has the potential to turn it over. Got some gunslinger to him. You live with it. You love it. Sometimes you hate it. If he starts to press in a game on the road at Death Valley, I'm assuming this one's going to be at night, like Death Valley will be going insane, and you could see some mistakes. So last thing I'll say, though, what it would mean for the vibes around both head coaches, I think is really interesting. Because if you're Brian Kelly, and all we've talked about is week one, what he hasn't done, how he's not a fit, this, that, and the other, not being a fit conversation for folks outside of this show, not us, but people start to think that about Brian Kelly. But if you win game one on the road, people go, oh, well, that was kind of different from other LSU teams, right? From previous LSU teams the last couple of seasons. That was different than what we've seen. What else is different about them this year? Maybe they have sort of fixed some things internally that have kept them from winning those week one games, getting them ready to play, whatever it is. That was different. What else is different about LSU? I think you start to ask that question. Now, if Dabo and the boys get it done over a team in the SEC, a situation where you lost to Georgia, South Carolina, and Texas last year, 0-3 by my count, okay, maybe Dabo's back. Like, Dabo never really left, but Dabo, from how we've seen Dabo to be at the top of college football, maybe that version of Dabo is back. And all it took, a little chiropractor appointment with the roster. Just a couple of adjustments here, go to the portal, receiver here, Will Helt here. Just maybe adjusting, not totally redoing, but a little adjusting of the philosophy. Okay, then things are maybe a little bit different when it comes to what Clemson could be in 2025. So I can't wait for that one. That's going to be absolutely electric cinema, if you will. Week one, LSU going to Clemson, South Carolina. Going to learn a lot from that one. Now, let's move on here and talk a little bit about what I think is going to be the best weekend of college football as we sit here right now in the month of May, looking forward. Y'all, Week 7, October 11th, is truly a cinematic Saturday. Like, cancel all your plans. Tell the girlfriend, tell the wife, or the boyfriend or the husband, tell them, hey, we are not doing anything that day, but sitting on the couch, probably ordering in, and we're watching college football from noon to whenever the last game kicks off at night, probably 10 Eastern. Because the matchups we have in this one are absolutely ridiculous. Like, I'll start with Michigan at USC. This is a massive, I think, surge spot for both these teams when you look at the year. Like, you have USC and Michigan in a spot where both are trying to take that next step to be tier 1 teams in the Big Ten. Michigan been there before. USC new to the conference. They're going to get there. But, like, Michigan won this game last year throwing for 32 yards. You are not doing that again. You're not going to win this game again throwing for less than 50 yards at USC. All right? And in the same breath, for USC, this is a great test to for the trenches, right? Like, you lost that game last year because Mullings goes, 60, 70 yards on you, puts you in a spot where you're playing with your back against the wall in the red zone. We talk about the next step for USC. A lot of it's quarterback for sure. A lot of it's defense still. A lot of it is, do you have the trenches to measure up against Michigan's, Ohio State's, Iowa's of the world, so on and so forth in that conference to be a team that competes for a Big Ten championship. Now, what I said about Michigan, it's not going to be a 32-yard passing game and you win the game. You need Bryce Underwood, who I think will start in this game, to prove why you brought him in. Believe this will be Sharon Moore's second game back from suspension, so you hope that things are kind of settled at that point. This is the spot where I need Bryce Underwood to be the difference for you. It's going to be a good USC defense, but if we have a generational talent that we think we do in Bryce Underwood, this is a spot where he could go win the game for you. And how far along is he in itself will be a good litmus test when it comes to what October 11th will be. Ohio State at Illinois. For Illinois, the lead up for them is interesting. They play at Indiana and USC. If Illinois is undefeated, hey, now this could be the flag plant game for Bielema and the boys. If you want to be a team that's going to win the Big Ten and make your case to win the Big Ten, like, this is the game where you announce your presence, right? Ohio State, it's kind of the same version of that story, but the other side, they are the big dog in the Big Ten. They didn't win the conference last year, but they are that big dog in the conference. They will have played Texas already, not a Big Ten game, but you hear my point. And they're going to be at Washington before this game. This is a chance, I think, for them to set the trajectory for the rest of their season as well. If you want to go win the Big Ten, I think you got to go through Illinois. You still play Penn State, you still play Michigan, but you cannot split those two and lose to Illinois. Ohio State expects to win all of them, but you cannot split those two and lose to Illinois and still, accomplish your Big Ten title hopes. At that point, too, depending on the Texas game, the playoff discussion becomes interesting around Ohio State. So that one's going to be awesome, storylines galore, and just learn a lot about both sides. Now, Red River rivalry. Texas OU, Cotton Bowl. I hope it's a noon kick. I don't know that it will be. Maybe it'll be 3 o'clock. Anyways, this game in itself is going to be awesome. The quarterback matchup between Arch Manning and John Mateer in itself will be box office. But if you're Oklahoma, man, this could be the game where, similar to what we said about Illinois, you may just announce your presence to the rest of the college football world that you are, in fact, like that. This might be the spot. This might be the spot where it's like, oh, actually, Oklahoma, yeah, they beat Michigan. Good for them. But if they beat Texas and have a Michigan win in their back pocket, I'm assuming at this point in time, if that's the case, hey, look out now. Look out. Now, I've said before, I think winning this game will be, I think it'll require a lot of John Mateer to get it done. That's not saying a lot because of him being the quarterback and because of the way that Oklahoma's going to run the offense. But you're going to need some Mateer magic, okay? And Mateer magic in Red River with where Texas is right now in the preseason, that would, I think, put you into some Sooner lore, all right, speaking of number 10. Now, for Texas, this would be, if you're able to win this game, and they expect to the people in Austin, year 5 for Steve Sarkisian, after a year now where Brent Venables and company did everything they possibly could to armor up the car and build this team to go make some real noise in the SEC, and Texas in a year where they have a new quarterback, replacing a lot of production on offense, pretty much the whole offensive line, lose some key pieces on defense, and you still beat Oklahoma, depending on how it looks, I think if you're a Texas fan, you say, yep, we are foreseeably like that until we're not. Like Sark has built this thing. Speaking to an armored car, they're bulletproof, is Steve Sarkisian in Texas. If you win this game, how you think you can win this game. I think that this also has the opportunity for Arch Manning to kind of be the arrival moment. He'll have a chance against Ohio State for sure, but that'll be week 1. Who knows how much they really open it up, how much they have to open it up, all those things. But I think you're going to have to score to beat Oklahoma. I really do. I think Oklahoma is going to have a good offense. I think that Oklahoma's going to have a good defense. But at the end of the day, it may just come down to Arch Manning, put it on the cape and say, no, this is why you brought me here. This is why I waited my turn. This is my spot now to do my thing, to go ahead and shine in a moment where the entire world is watching. This could be, I think, the game of the week. You hope College Game Day is there. This could be the one where you kind of, similar to what we said about other teams on this this list, could be a flag plant moment for Texas. That, no, we really do have national title chops, if there was any wondering about that. Now, the lead up for both teams is interesting. Texas at Florida the week before. No bye week. Oklahoma, they have a bye, then Kent State, then Texas. So you would think the preparation would favor Oklahoma in regards to being able to have your best game plan ready. But you would also say for Texas, maybe it's a spot where the fact that you got to stay hot against the Florida team and keep your competitive juices running, maybe that ends up being a difference for them and favoring them. Here's the one thing I'll say. If Texas wins, it's not a massive surprise to anybody, given how we talk about them right now with their schedule and or not their schedule, their roster, excuse me. But if Oklahoma wins, I do think this changes your perspective on the rest of their schedule. Because the schedule's brutal, there's no way around it. But like how you view Alabama, if you beat Texas and you're Oklahoma, I think that changes. How you view LSU, I think that changes. South Carolina, I think that changes. Ole Miss, I think that changes. So there's a lot there for Oklahoma to where this could kind of be the match they strike that lights it on fire and gets them rolling. And I cannot wait for that one. That's going to be absolutely electric. A couple more to touch on here. Florida and A&M. This kind of be the truth teller spot for DJ Lagway and Texas A&M. For Texas A&M, if you want to get over the hump, you got to do what you did last year to Florida. Yeah, you beat Florida last year in the swamp, but we all understand. The Florida that you played early in the year was very different than the Florida that beat Ole Miss in November. So that's going to be something to watch for. But if you're Florida, you look at what that game was last year early on, and DJ Lagway now having his chance to say something about it, could be a chance to kind of show the chops that he has and that Florida has here in 2025. Arizona State at Utah, low-key, could be a Big 12 title game round 1. That'll be cinema. Indiana at Oregon, absolute just plot thickener, if you will. Oregon, if they win this game handily, I think we look at Kurt Signetti in Indiana and say, okay, were they a product of their schedule? But if Indiana's undefeated going into this one, They play Illinois and Iowa before. Okay, hey, here we go. Here we go. Kurt Signetti, the Sig 10 could be a very real thing. So learn a lot about both sides there. Side note, electric coaching matchup. Get a bye for both of these sides before with Dan Lanning and Kurt Signetti. So my point there is the best game plan for both sides will be very much so available for us to see. Now, it's going to be a cancel your plans Saturday, so make sure you're locked in, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Last segment here to get us out of here to finish up the week, but little perception reality action for you on Auburn and what they are in the eye of the public and what they actually are in what we believe to be the real world we're living in as it pertains to Hugh Freeze and what they have going out there on the plains. It's kind of rare, but I think the perception and reality actually marry up pretty well here. It's time to go do something if you're Auburn, man. It's time to go do something. How many times have we sat here and talked about what they've done on the recruiting trail, the portal, the roster, the recruiting rankings? If they just had a quarterback, you should have a quarterback. Because at this point now, I think Auburn fans feel this way. I think the rest of college football feels this way. The time for talking is very much so behind us. You can talk in year one. In year two, you can get more excited, but still have some conversation. Year three, it's like, okay, show me what we are. Like it's sort of like having a little DTR situation, a little determine the relationship. I don't need to know that we're getting married. I just need to know that we're actually going somewhere. I need to know that we see a future together. If we're Auburn, I don't need to make the college football playoff. I don't need to win 10 games. I need to know, though, that this thing is headed somewhere where we're actually winning 8 games. Maybe we win 9 games or something like that. I don't know what it is, but this is a situation now where reality is it's time to actually go get something done if you're Auburn. I would also say, in addition to that, the reason why there's that expectation is the roster is good enough in a lot of ways. Is there some youth? Sure. Some guys that you're waiting to see maybe prove themselves in another way? Sure. But you look on paper what Auburn has, there's not a lot of question marks. Now, of course, everyone has some question marks after spring. My biggest question mark is who's Jackson Arnold. But look at the receiver room. I mean, if it's not the best in college football next to Ohio State, it's top 3. Like, it's that good. You should not have a top 3 wide receiver room, a 5-star quarterback, recruit how you recruit on the defensive side of the football, have multiple high-ranking portal classes, and finish in a spot where it's like, man, yeah, I don't know, it just didn't come together. It's got to come together this year. And in some ways, it's like you believe or you require so much of a certain place because you believe in that place. Like, I think what we've seen from Hugh Freeze in a short time at Auburn is the way they have continued to push this thing up the hill and the way they've done it, and it feels like a pretty short amount of time, speaking to that roster, the brand has some real power. When Auburn has alignment with the administration, the boosters, the staff, everyone pulling the same direction, that orange and blue AU can do some real damage, man. And we've seen it now in a very short amount of time. And so if they have success on the field, that's where it gets scary to me. That's where Auburn's not just a team that can, ruin your Saturday in the SEC or whatever if you're having to play them. They can be a team where it's like, no. They can legitimately compete for conference championships, be a college football playoff team. All that is very much so attainable, but it starts with determining, hey, are we going to be something more than competing for a 6-win season at the end of the year? We get to the Iron Bowl. Can we be bowl eligible? Can we win 7 games? That's not the discussion. It's time to go win something. And this isn't me speaking down to Auburn. This is, I think, Auburn speaking to themselves in the mirror saying, yeah, we know. Let's go get it. This is the time now. We've built enough. We've prepared ourselves for a long time. This is the year that we go do something. So perception and reality, the exact same if you're Auburn. It's time to go do something. And I cannot wait to see it. It makes me nervous for sure. I think I compared Auburn and what they are in 2025 to like a bungee jump situation. It makes sense on paper, but I won't say it doesn't scare me. I won't say it doesn't get the blood flowing a little bit for better or for worse, and the heart rate racing a little bit. Hey, appreciate y'all being dialed in, man, making the show what it is. A lot of fun to be had on the show still for the rest of the college football calendar year. Media days right around the corner, but we're going to make sure that we max the rest of this thing out all the way up and through the finish line that is week 0 of the college football season. But for Cato on the ones and twos, for myself, JD PicKell, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We will keep this party rolling. We will see y'all.